This presentation is on the portion of the article, Resegregation, What's the Answer? By Jonathan Kozel, and my name is Stephanie Bakakis. So what does this title mean? So as we know, segregation is referring to when places, or in this case schools, were separated by race up until it was ordered as illegal in 1954. When we talk about resegregation, the author is referring to schools becoming segregated again. Kozel states that the dramatic resurgent segregation is the highest now since the death of MLK Jr. The segregation the author focuses on is between urban and suburban schools. Suburban schools typically have more funding, newer buildings, more qualified teachers, more resources, less crowded schools, and higher educational standards than the public schools in an urban setting. The author's purpose of writing this article is for readers to see that there needs to be a change, and a few ideas can make that change. A lot of what Dr. V had in her Lecture 3 presentation relates to this very problem. After the decision to desegregate in 1954, whites moved out of the city to the suburbs. They left black, brown, and poor people in the city and essentially trapped them there. Realtors and politicians made the suburbs seem like an amazing place to live, which then pushed a lot of white middle-class families to move there. It is still like this to this day. Middle-class families live in suburbs and go to financially thriving schools that allow for more resources. Urban schools are typically underfunded, overcrowded, and a lot of families can't afford to move to the suburbs to receive that opportunity of privilege. As Dr. King stated, separate schools will always be inherently unequal. The author complains that the White House is doing absolutely nothing to fix this segregation, and they need to be the first to make that change. Jonathan Kozel suggests some short-run and long-run solutions for this issue. So as a short-run solution, the author explains that the government should implement a program with appealing incentives to encourage wealthy suburban schools to admit inner-city children. Some of these incentives include additional per-pupil funding for each transfer student, construction funds for more space for the school, funds to recruit on-site advocates to help transition the students from the city to the suburbs, and funds for student transportation between the city and the suburbs. Students who need the most, so those with low academic scores, in troubled or crowded schools, receive priority when it comes to choosing the students that get to go to the suburban schools for that integration. This was done in Boston, but they had no federal help. The result of this, though, was that 90% or more students graduated high school, and almost all of those students went on to higher education. So there has been a positive feedback and results from a program like this. Along with a program like this, the author includes that the principal needs to speak out on these issues because they are a crucial role in our society and they can really make that change. For long-run solutions, the author presents a few possibilities. Number 1, people need to fight zoning laws. Zoning laws are jurisdictions deciding where schools will be built in neighborhoods. Number 2, people also need to fight racial steering, which is guiding home buyers towards or away from certain neighborhoods based on the race of the neighborhood or the home buyers. And number 3, people also must fight other practices that maintain residential segregation and assign black, brown, and poor people to isolated neighborhoods so they cannot corrupt the lives and education of the privileged. So what can we do in the classroom? One thing that I thought of is to fight the segregation is to advocate for these types of programs in your school that allow for schools to integrate. It gives inner city students the opportunity to a quality education and gives them a better chance to succeed. The other thing we can do as educators is to teach students the importance of advocating for social justices, especially with an issue like this. Some questions to consider as you go on to becoming a teacher is 1. How does this affect us as future educators? And 2. What would you do as an educator to make a change in this situation?